Hello everyone, welcome back to Total Football Talk, and we're going to look at all the latest kind of news and footballing news and transfer news surrounding Manchester United. But yeah, I didn't do a show yesterday, just kind of out of a mark of respect for the death of Diego Jota. My condolences go out to his family, his wife, his kids. Um, it's a shocking bit of news that has kind of transpired over the last kind of 24 48 hours. How him and his brother have kind of died in a car crash in northern Spain. Absolutely horrific news, devastating sort of news, a big loss to the footballing world. A brilliant player who did great things at Liverpool. And I just think it's a time to reflect, a time to kind of gather your thoughts and appreciate that you just never know how long you're here for. Diego Jota, he lived a great footballing life. He probably lived a great life. Unfortunately, he just got married. Was it 6 days ago? And it's absolutely tragic what happened to him. It's unbelievable. And yeah, it kind of shocked me a little bit yesterday. So I just didn't feel yesterday was a day to do a show. So I'm just going to carry on with what news I have as of today. But as I said, my kind of heart goes out to his family and friends and anyone kind of connected to him in the footballing world. It's an unbelievable loss, and yeah, we just realize how precious life is and how short it can be. Okay, we'll move on to the news surrounding Manchester United, and there's some breaking news this morning that Rasmus Hojlund has verbally agreed personal terms with Inter Milan, and he is pushing for the move. Negotiations still at the early stages between the clubs. What do you good people think about this? Do you think selling Rasmus Hojlund is an option, or is this maybe this isn't a selling this alone with an option to buy? I heard Ben Jacobs talking about yesterday briefly, and what little news I did get in regards to football. He kind of mentioned that Manchester United could let Rasmus Hojlund go out on loan with maybe an option or an obligation to buy. Um, can we afford to let a player go, a striker go out and not have anyone kind of even? We obviously need to replace him, but I think we need two strikers. I don't even think one striker is going to be enough, because we can't just have one striker for the entire year unless we're going to rely on Tito Obi to come in and do a good job throughout the season. I just think that's a lot of pressure on a 17-year-old to come in and try and make that work. So I don't really know how that one's going to sort of operate. I just I As interesting as this is, and as maybe this is a good move for Rasmus, maybe gets him back to the Italian league. Maybe he'll slot back in there and he'll start scoring goals again. It wouldn't surprise me if he did. Inter Milan are obviously looking to freshen up their team after the way their seasons kind of petered out last year. They lost the title in the last game of the season. They lost the Champions League heavily. They got knocked out of the Club World Cup. So they in the slightly earlier stages than they probably thought. So they're going through they're really struggling at the minute, and they need to rejuvenate their squad, and maybe Rasmus Hojlund is what they believe to be that kid who can do it, because obviously he'd done very well at sort of Atalanta prior to joining Manchester United. His first season at Manchester United was pretty decent, 16 goals in all competitions, but last year unfortunately it just didn't work. He regressed and he really struggled in a team that struggled. So not just him, but the entire team struggled. And I just think we are, it could be a good move for him, and maybe it'll be a good move for us. But by God, do we need two replacements if we let Rasmus go? And at the minute, we can't even get the Mbumo line across, the Mbumo deal across the line. So anyway, so that's where we are with Rasmus. So that's breaking this morning. So get your thoughts in below. What would you like to see with Rasmus? Would you like to see him go? Would you like to see Manchester United sell him, or would you like to see him go out on loan and potentially bring him back next season if he turns it around? Get your comments in below. And this was another bit of information that was breaking, and it said Juventus are unlikely to cover even half of Jadon Sancho's 275,000 a week salary. Now, this is one that's quite concerning, because we know that Juventus are interested, which is brilliant, but so are other clubs. We know that I think other clubs do look Jadon Sancho as a potential good fit for their club, but not at those wages. He's going to have to take a massive drop in his wages, and as I said 2 days ago, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see Jadon Sancho taking a drop in his wages at all. Why would he? It just seems crazy. Was he going to drop by 100,000 a week? Not a chance. I I don't know. Maybe Manchester United need to um, pay off some of his contract, which I don't think we're going to do either, because I don't think that works well for PSR. I just got a bad feeling that Jadon Sancho is going to come back to training next week or the week after. Pre-season starts very, very soon, Monday, I believe. Some players are back. I don't know whether Jadon Sancho is back on the Monday, but some players will be back early doors. And some players will come back later from what we've kind of heard this morning. And then we will just see where we are with it. But I've just got a funny feeling it's going to take something big to get Jadon Sancho out the door at Manchester United. It's probably not going to happen. He's probably going to sit in his wages and frustrate the hell out of us. Another story that was kind of briefly kind of talked about yesterday was Calvert Lewin's wage demands are very high and therefore unlikely that Manchester United will move in that direction unless the demands decrease or they have hole in the squad later in the window. As a free agent, the player will be rigid on his demands. Well, I mean, the lad can be as rigid as he wants. He's got a terrible transfer record, or injury record, sorry. He's barely played for Everton. When he has, he's barely scored a goal. Yes, he will be maybe revitalised in another team. I don't want Manchester United to be that team that he's trying to get revitalised by. As far as I'm concerned, this is a no-go. This is not happening. We shouldn't even be looking at him. He's absolute desperation. It's like when we bought Cavani at the end of, was it 4 seasons ago? Desperation set in. We just had to get a striker, and we got Cavani, and now Cavani's 10 times the player Calvert Lewin is. And I just think if we get him, that is an absolute shocker. And that just goes to show that whatever plan Willcox and Barada and the board all had, it didn't work. So, yeah, that would just smack of sheer desperation, and I hope we avoid that at all cost. But in terms of Calvert Lewin, I don't know him, but I hope the lad goes on and has a good career somewhere else. I'm sure he's very frustrated at this time at Everton, and I'm sure he would love to get back playing again and scoring goals, and maybe he will do. I just hope for Manchester United's sake it's not for Manchester United. And now this was another little bit of news that came out that Anthony Elanga's transfer to Newcastle would open up the sell-on clause that we have, and it could be up to £5 million. I believe it's between £5 to £8 million. That could be interesting for Manchester United. There's a 55 million bid apparently it's gone in from Newcastle to Nottingham Forest, and we could potentially earn some money off the back of that, which would be absolutely brilliant considering our horrific position for PSR at the minute and FFP in terms of being able to bring players in extra 5, 6, 7 million, whatever it is. That would really help. I mean, maybe a Percy and Bruno thing across the line. I've got a funny feeling it won't, but yeah, we'll just have to see where this one unfolds. But it does look like Newcastle are desperate to get some business done. It's the early stages of the transfer window, early July. Newcastle have been looking at other players. They want to get something across the line. Elanga could be it. Elanga's a very, very good player and will suit them really well. Will work really well under Eddie Howe, I can imagine. And if we can, get a bit of money from it, absolutely brilliant. That will do nicely. And this is a couple of other little bits now, just in regards to the academy. Manchester United, on the instructions of Jason Willcox, the academy will not be required to play with a back three system, as Willcox wants the youth team to focus on developing high quality talent rather than integration into the first team system. So what's surprising here is there's conflicting messages. We want players to develop, yes, which is great, but if these players are going to develop, we'd love them to come into the first team. And if they come into the first team, you should really be playing a system that is in the kind of youth team. So that transition is made easier. So you're not having to transition to a system as well as, the kind of the parameters of that you have to understand whenever you play in the Premier League or the cup competitions for Manchester United. I find this very odd. I find this very strange. I think the youth team should be playing the same way so they have a greater understanding of how to operate in the senior team. So yeah, I don't really understand this one. Very, very interesting that Willcox is just all about the development. And I get that. I get you. Obviously, we want to develop young players. Maybe it's just purely about development to sell them on. Maybe it's easier to sell them on if they're not playing into a rigid sort of 3-4-3 system in the youth team. So yeah, maybe there is some kind of plan there, but I don't really see it. I find it really weird. I don't really understand it. little bit on Brian and Brumo. Apparently, I haven't got a slide for this, but apparently there's talks this morning that the deal is moving forward. It's the 4th of July. Will the Glazers do any business on the 4th of July? I'd be very surprised. I think it's going to be next week now. And obviously that means dragging it out today, dragging it out over the weekend. And then we are into Monday, Tuesday of next week. And preseason starts and Brumo's not through the door. Will he even make the tour? I don't know. But I hope so. I hope they get it done. It'd be brilliant if they did get it done, and not, well, brilliant to get that deal done, but it's still only 2 deals done, and no players have left, bar the ones who have contracts have ended, like Ericsson, Lindelof, etc. So, yeah, absolute shocker. We are really struggling. We're really behind. July's already starting to fly by, and we haven't done anything, and we're running out of time. And people are saying, it's okay, it's fine, don't worry about it. We can wait. The clock's ticking. Every day that passes means that every day that we haven't got rid of an Elanga, sorry, not Elanga, he's gone. Sorry, Sancho, Rashford, Anthony, Balasia. The list is endless of players that need to leave Manchester United, and none of them have left yet. And what's there going to be, a fire sale at the end of this to get rid of, some of them? I don't know. So yeah, that's where we are with that. And then the last little bit of news, which was I'm going to bring in yesterday, was that Diego Leon is he's saying what he's saying is, everyone thinks I'll go on loan, but I don't have that mindset. I'm going to kill it in pre-season. And with 1 or 2 games I've already been played, Diego Leon is determined to make a name for himself at Manchester United. And I think that's a brilliant attitude from the kid. I think he's got a lot of fire, hunger, desire, and that's what we need. I think he's really raw, 17-year-old to come straight in and play, either left centre back or on the left side of it, or the wing back position. I think Dorgu's probably already ahead of him. Hayamas maybe even ahead of him because he's already had a little bit of Premier League experience. But I love that the kid's coming in. He's determined. He's fighting. He's ready for it. And hopefully he will, at least put down a marker and push these other players on. And bit of competition for places, definitely a good thing. But okay, guys, that's all your news. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Keith. If you're enjoying the content, please hit the old like button. Please hit the old subscribe button. Really appreciate it. And enjoy life when you can, because as we've seen with Diego Jota, you just never know kind of when it's going to go. It can be any given moment. Okay, guys, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.